Viewer discretion is advised. Analog horror, the genre we all know and love. And we all know that we'd be screwed in if we got any scenarios. Well, can Homelander survive them? That's a question we're here today to answer. We'll be putting Homelander up against 4 different types of entities we'll be discussing in this video. In Tom from the Window, Tom ends up turning into a monster after killing Jerry. He ends up even killing his own owner. Now he's a tall monster, running around the neighborhood, terrorizing residents and killing them. In the series, Tom is considered armed and dangerous, and you should always proceed with caution. However, how does Homelander fare against him? Homelander, of course, is known to be very strong, being able to launch people up into the air and tank bullets like they're nothing. Also, not mentioning the fact that he also beats Soldier Boy with relative ease. Even the suit nicknamed the Homelander Killer was getting thrown around by him like a doll, showing the power gap between Homelander and any other suit. So Tom's biggest feat is, well, killing a human and terrorizing an entire neighborhood. On paper, that's scary to a regular human being, but to Homelander, this is nothing, given he's literally lasered a plane in half. This isn't even a fight. This is easily a win for Homelander. He simply lasers him in half like a toy. So clearly, Tom through the Window isn't a challenge for Homelander. So how about we put him against a group of entities that specifically hunt humans? The parallel is in analog horror, where these entities are hunting down and killing humans, even torturing and mutilating them slowly to death, such as stalkers. Stalkers can stand anywhere from 7 to 8 feet tall, breaking into people's homes and killing them. What's even worse are the tormentors, being able to torture and kill stalkers for fun. And this is also not mentioning they can run up to over 100 miles an hour plus and swim as fast as a jet boat. Explosives and other weapons are completely useless against them. Then we also have these entities called the Despair Colors. The Despair Colors are entities that believe that the world is a flawless and perfect place, and anyone who is depressed or mentally unwell is ungrateful and deserves to die. This, combined with their extremely aggressive nature, makes them a huge threat to people who are struggling with mental health. The Virus. The Virus is an entity that attacks people via invading their digital devices. They pose no physical threat. However, they can leak your personal data and hack into your bank account. Anguish. Anguish is a tall, fleshy humanoid that resembles a goat and a skinned human mixed together. This entity causes severe mental distress upon looking at it. Underneath its fleshy exterior is a horrifying shadowy figure that is extremely disturbing to look at. Almost all encounters ends with the victim killing themselves from mental distress. Not even tormentors are safe from anguish, as it's so horrifying even tormentors kill themselves from mental distress. However, anguish can be killed with conventional weapons, such as when it was killed by a police officer on patrol when a gun was unwillingly discharged during an encounter. Density of Influence. Density of Influence is the tallest entity yet, standing at 35 feet tall. It has been rarely seen, only been seen 4 times and visually documented twice. This entity does not directly harm humans. However, it makes entities within a 5-kilometer radius become extremely aggressive and unpredictable, resulting in more deaths. It is a parasitic creature feeding off the death and suffering of the human race. However, it is important to note that they don't pose any direct physical threats. So how would Homelander fare against these entities? First off, Stalkers and Despair Callers gets easily destroyed by him. Homelander may struggle a bit with the Tormentors, but not much. He's strong enough to launch it up into the air and maybe even fly to space and leave it there. The best the virus could do to Homelander would be leaking private information from Vought or embarrass him online. But yet again, we just all saw what happened with the Flight 47 video. Anguish might stand a good chance against Homelander, but yet again, all Homelander has to do to kill it is look at it. Kind of ironic. As for the Entity of Influence, as we know of, it possesses no offensive capabilities. So if Homelander can't kill it directly, they'll simply fly to space and I'll do the job for him.
Clearly, the entities from the parallel were more of an inconvenience than an actual threat to Homelander. How about we put him against an entity that doesn't just attack you physically, but also mentally?
The Mandela Catalog is an analog horror where entities known as alternates are imitating humans and trying to replace them with their own kind, relentlessly psychologically torturing their victims before killing them. It's gone so bad to the point where 911 operators are trained to let the people calling for help die. As if things weren't already bad enough, there's an alternate version of Gabriel the Archangel psychologically manipulating people into killing themselves and letting their alternate versions take over them. This is of course extremely dark, showing how hopeless the people in the Mandela Catalog truly are. What makes the Mandela Catalog even more terrifying is the fact that it uses the fear of the unknown to its absolute limit, making these alternates look human but also far from it, making them even look like something that we've never seen before. This is also not mentioning the fact that there's certain entities that are far, far more powerful than the average alternate, such as the Preacher and Intruder, responsible for thousands of missing and dead people. Of course, the average person in this scenario would go insane and later get themselves killed. How would Homelander fare against an alternate? In a physical encounter, Homelander would absolutely win, slicing it in half with his laser vision like warm butter, or kicking it across the room like a mouse, giving him no challenge at all. However, in a mental encounter, Homelander would lose, because unlike the Anguish, they can simply get in his head and start messing with his mind, such as Archangel Gabriel, who can come to him as Madeline Stillwell, telling how such a bad boy he's been, how big of a disappointment he is to her. And even if that doesn't work, he can still come as his own son, Ryan, who he loves to death, telling him how he hates being his son, and how he'll never accept him as his own father, telling him that he hates him and doesn't even want to think of him. This would break him mentally, making him think of his past traumas and being absolutely horrified, realizing how he's really nothing special, just a psychopath who got powers, scaring people into thinking he's God. This is an easy win for alternates, making Homelander have a mental breakdown.
So clearly, Homelander loses the mind game. However, he hasn't lost a single physical fight yet. So how about we put him against something that is strong enough to level a city block, and maybe even an entire city as well? The Flight Mutationary Monster should do just the thing. The Flight Mutationary Monster is what would happen if you mixed a bio-threat with a kaiju. Standing over 600 feet tall, this thing has leveled Seattle and has absolutely devastated San Francisco, leaving nothing left but burning buildings and corpses covering the entire area. It got so bad, to the point where the United States had to use a nuclear warhead on their own land. Yet the creature survived just barely injured. Shooting ballistic missiles at it did absolutely nothing, to the point where even shooting with Nerf darts would have done just the same. Just to get an idea of how durable this creature truly is, Butcher hitting Stormfront with his crowbar did more damage to her than ballistic missiles did to the creature. Of course, the creature is also well capable of crushing cars and knocking them around like flies. So, how would Homelander fare against the Flight Mutationary Monster? First off, he's significantly faster than it, being able to fly from Washington to DC in just half a minute. Homelander is incredibly sadistic and ruthless, even killing Supersonic and showing it to Starlight to warn her not to step out of line again, even threatening to kill Huey as well if she did as much as look the wrong way. A monster terrorizing a city, Homelander wouldn't even hesitate for a nanosecond. It's more than likely that Homelander would be moving so fast the creature isn't able to hit him. It would be completely caught off guard and almost defenseless against Homelander. It is important to note that the creature is incredibly infectious, being able to assimilate and transform a bunch of different creatures, including spiders and buffaloes.
It is important to note that the creature emits a huge amount of radiation, which could temporarily burn Homelander's Compound V. If the Compound V does get burned, Homelander would be absolutely screwed. With that said and done, Homelander would probably struggle to deal damage to the creature. However, it has been shown that they are vulnerable to high temperatures, and Homelander's lasers are pretty hot. So it may damage the creature and create fumes, which could be a problem for Homelander, because the fumes could be infectious. But yet again, Homelander's cells are extremely strong and regenerative, being able to likely resist infection entirely. Before you guys start writing paragraphs about the biomass not getting destroyed during the containment protocol, was the fact that it already began growing. It was simply too late, and the fumes got into air and started infecting everything around it. The temperature was simply not high enough to destroy the particles in the air. Homelander is simply too fast for the creature to hit him. He'll eventually wear it down over time, and eventually the creature will succumb to its injuries. Me personally, I think this could go either way. However, I would give the slight edge to Homelander, because the creature has no direct way of attacking him. However, this is not saying that it would be without difficulty. Homelander is more than likely going to be exhausted after the fight. However, the ones who actually lose this fight is the citizens of San Francisco, watching their city get absolutely destroyed.
Overall, Homelander stands a pretty decent chance of beating these entities. Beating 3 out of the 4 discussed this video. Please, do feel free to tell me what was right or wrong about in the comments. See you in the next video. Bye bye.